Deadly cartel leaders are officially gearing up for war as Trump and Elon Musk threaten drone strikes, setting the stage for a conflict that could change everything. Elon Musk has made one thing clear: the cartels are now fair game for drone attacks. And with Trump officially designating groups like the Sinaloa and Jalisco cartels as terrorist organizations, the game has changed. The same lethal drones used to eliminate targets in the Middle East could soon be hunting cartel kingpins deep inside Mexico. And it's already happening. CIA drones have been spotted circling cartel strongholds, tracking movements, gathering intel, and preparing for what could be the most ruthless crackdown in history. But the real question remains: when the drones strike, how will the cartels fight back? Once this war begins, there's no stopping what comes next. Let's uncover the shocking details behind the deadly showdown between the US and the cartels. The pen stroke that changed everything came with little warning. With a single executive order, Trump transformed Mexico's most powerful criminal organizations into something far more ominous in the eyes of American law: terrorists.
This is actually an executive order designating the cartels and other organizations to be foreign terrorist organizations.
That's a big one.
Yes, sir.
People have wanted to do this for years.
This wasn't just bureaucratic paperwork. It was a declaration of war. The designation covered Mexico's most feared criminal enterprises, groups that collectively control vast territories, command armies of foot soldiers, and move billions in drugs, weapons, and human trafficking. For decades, these cartels operated with a degree of impunity. Now, they face the full might of America's counterterrorism machine. The same apparatus that hunted Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Trump made it clear: war is not off the table.
President Trump, if the cartels are now going to be seen as foreign terror organizations, would you think about ordering U.S. Special Forces into Mexico to take them out?
Could happen. Stranger things have happened.
Enter Elon Musk, the world's richest man and now Trump's senior advisor. When asked about the terrorist designation, Musk didn't mince words. These groups are now eligible for drone strikes. He also tweeted this: American weapons programs need to be completely redone. The current strategy is to build a small number of weapons at a high price to fight yesterday's war. Unless there are immediate and dramatic changes made, America will lose the next war very badly. This wasn't some casual observation. It was a calculated message from someone with direct access to the president's ear. The man behind SpaceX and Tesla, companies built on cutting-edge technology, was now contemplating the use of that same technological prowess against human targets. For cartels accustomed to fighting rival gangs and corrupting local officials, this represents an entirely new threat. Precision strikes from an unseen enemy, raining death from the sky with no warning. Journalist Rosario Aviles sees through the posturing.
Elon Musk ha exagerado, ¿no?, su papel, no solamente hacia afuera, sino también hacia adentro de Estados Unidos.
She views Musk's declaration as an indirect message from Trump, a show of force designed to extract concessions in trade negotiations. But for the cartels, watching American aircraft circling overhead, the distinction between posturing and genuine threat grows increasingly meaningless. The threat isn't theoretical, it's already in motion.
The U.S. military is keeping a close eye on the Mexican border. Over the course of 10 days, spy planes flew at least 18 missions over the southwestern U.S. and the international airspace around the Baja Peninsula.
For months now, America's most sophisticated surveillance aircraft have been conducting missions over Mexico. The U.S. military reported at least 18 flights in just 10 days, an unprecedented surge from the previous pace of 1 flight per month. These aren't ordinary aircraft. They're the pinnacle of American intelligence gathering. But most concerning for cartel leaders is the appearance of the MQ-9 Reaper, the deadliest drone in America's arsenal. The Reaper is a killing machine disguised as an aircraft. Measuring 11 meters long with a 20-meter wingspan, it can reach altitudes of 15,000 meters and speeds of 500 kilometers per hour. It can stay airborne for 14 hours without stopping. Most importantly, it carries 7 weapon mounts capable of delivering precision-guided missiles. Professional drone pilot Michael Inella explains.
Son capaces de estar en el aire mucho más tiempo que otro dron comercial que alguien puede comprar como pasatiempo. Es un tema de pilotos profesionales. Son grandiosos drones militares que tienen una gran capacidad.
These are the same drones that hunted and killed terrorist leaders across the Middle East and Africa. Now, they're turning their sensors toward Mexico. The Mexican government claims they're aware of only 2 such flights. The Pentagon says there were at least 18. Someone is lying, and the truth reveals the high-stakes deception game now underway. Either Mexico is being deliberately kept in the dark about American operations on their border, or they're spinning their own counter-narrative to save face as their sovereignty is challenged. When pressed on whether these planes were spying on drug traffickers, Mexico's defense minister, Ricardo Trevilla's response was shocking. "We can't rule it out because we don't know what they did." This was a big admission from a defense minister, acknowledging that a foreign power might be conducting surveillance operations targeting Mexican territory. The implications are explosive. Under long-standing agreements, intelligence gathered from Mexican territory should be shared between the 2 countries. But if America is deliberately concealing the true extent of these flights, it suggests something bigger is coming. There are only 2 plausible scenarios, and both scream war. Scenario number 1. The Trump administration believes the Mexican government is compromised. They suspect officials would tip off cartel leaders about American surveillance operations, warning them to move, hide, or prepare countermeasures. It's not a far-fetched concern. The history of collusion between Mexican officials and cartels spans decades. But, as you might suspect, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum, strongly denies this. "We categorically reject the slander made by the White House against the Mexican government about alliances with criminal organizations." If this is the scenario, America is deliberately feeding Mexico limited information while conducting the real surveillance campaign in secret.
Mexico probably doesn't want that, but we have to do what's right.
The reporting of 18 flights becomes a contradiction, unless it's meant as psychological warfare against the cartels themselves. The second scenario is even worse. Mexico knows full well there were 18 flights, but is publicly downplaying the number to maintain the illusion of control. A government that admits foreign military aircraft are freely conducting surveillance over their territory is a government that looks weak to its own people and to the cartels who challenge their authority. This means that Mexico is cooperating with the states, but they don't want to admit it. But would the Mexican government want this?
There will be violence, and it's something we're prepared to handle, but I warn you to the cartels, if they harm a border police one of our soldiers, President Trump will not hesitate to take extreme action. I think President Trump will wipe off the face of the earth, just like he did ISIS.
And here's the thing, with Trump and Musk now promising to unleash hell, it's not just the Mexican government reacting, it's cartels too. How do you fight an enemy that strikes from 50,000 feet? This is the question keeping cartel leaders awake at night. These organizations didn't build multi-billion-dollar empires by backing down from challenges. They survived by adaptation and brutal retaliation. Every time authorities have launched major operations against them, cartels have responded with spectacular displays of violence. Remember what happened in Culiacan? When authorities arrested El Chapo's son, the Sinaloa cartel paralyzed an entire city with gunfire until the government surrendered.
This is the deadly and chaotic gun battle erupting in the Mexican city of Culiacan after the Mexican government says the National Guard and Army attempted to arrest El Chapo's son, Ovidio Guzman Lopez.
Soldiers and police found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered by cartel forces, displaying military-level discipline and firepower. Now, imagine their response to American drone strikes. They won't simply surrender, they'll escalate dramatically, potentially treating American cities as legitimate targets for the first time.
The CJNG is one of the most powerful and dangerous criminal organizations in Mexico, characterized by a business model of extreme violence and trafficking in the most deadly of substances.
With established networks in virtually every major U.S. metropolitan area, cartels have the infrastructure to bring unprecedented violence north of the border. Their operatives already control drug distribution channels throughout the United States. Cartel lieutenants are reportedly moving their families to more remote locations, a sign they're taking the aerial threat seriously. But they're also preparing countermeasures. The cartels have already demonstrated their willingness to employ drone technology for their own purposes, using explosive-laden drones to target rivals and law enforcement. It's not a leap to imagine them turning these same tactics against Border Patrol agents or even civilian targets inside the United States. The psychological warfare has already begun. If they believe American strikes are coming, why wait to retaliate? Their calculus becomes simple. Show Americans the cost of intervention before it even begins. Lost in the discussion of drones and strikes is the human toll this escalation will take. For ordinary Mexicans living in cartel-controlled territories, the prospect of American military intervention brings new terrors. They've already endured decades of violence that has claimed more than 480,000 lives since 2006. Now, they face the prospect of becoming collateral damage in a high-tech war between superpowers and criminal armies. These communities exist in a permanent state of conflict and fear. Young people come of age, knowing more about surviving crossfire than enjoying childhood. Parents develop elaborate safety protocols just for routine activities like attending school. Even police live in fear of kingpins like El Mencho.
Relaja tus partidas, si no te voy a partir tu madre, tienes toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey. ¿Cómo ves? Ya está, señor, ahorita los va.
This is the reality of daily life in areas where cartels hold sway. American drone strikes would add a new dimension of terror, the fear that death could come from above at any moment with no warning and no chance to escape. For Americans living near the border, the stakes are equally high. If cartels decide to retaliate for drone strikes by targeting U.S. communities, the violence that has plagued Mexico for decades could spill northward. Border Patrol agents already face the prospect of explosive-laden drones targeting them on American soil, but an escalation could put civilians directly in the crosshairs, turning shopping malls, schools, and public spaces into potential battlegrounds. Now, let's address a question that is bugging people these days. Why is Elon Musk, primarily known for electric cars and space rockets, suddenly a central figure in this conflict? Musk has positioned himself as a critic of America's military-industrial complex. He argues that the U.S. is prepping for yesterday's battles, not tomorrow's wars, by producing a handful of insanely expensive weapons, instead of adapting to modern warfare. One of his primary targets, the F-35 fighter jet program, which he bluntly called the work of idiots. His alternative vision centers on drone warfare, cheaper, more flexible, and potentially more lethal than traditional combat aircraft. Piloted fighter jets are becoming obsolete. However, experts say we aren't there yet in terms of drone tech. A mix between the two would be smarter. Musk's criticism isn't unfounded though. Through SpaceX, Musk has established himself as a critical partner to the U.S. military, launching classified satellites and developing technologies that could revolutionize warfare. His Starlink satellite network has already proven its military value in conflicts like Ukraine. Now, as Trump's advisor, Musk has direct influence over America's national security decisions, including how to deploy technology against the cartels. His companies have developed expertise in artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, and advanced manufacturing, all technologies with direct applications to drone warfare. If the U.S. decides to pursue a technological solution to the cartel problem, Musk will likely play a pivotal role in designing it. For Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, the presence of American drones in Mexican airspace represents an impossible dilemma. On one hand, her government faces enormous pressure to address cartel violence. On the other, allowing American military operations on Mexican soil would be seen as surrendering national sovereignty. In a 2025 press conference, she stated,
Estos vuelos son parte de coordinación, aquí está el almirante secretario, colaboraciones que se hacen desde hace muchos años entre el gobierno de Estados Unidos y el gobierno de México, y muchas veces esa petición, o más bien, todas las veces es bajo petición del gobierno de México.
But her explanation rings hollow when contrasted with her defense minister's admission that they don't know what the American aircraft are doing. The entire situation exposes Mexico's weakened position. Under long-standing agreements, intelligence gathered from Mexican territory should be shared between the two countries. But if America is deliberately concealing the true extent of these flights, it suggests something bigger is coming, something Mexico isn't meant to know about until it's too late. Sheinbaum has resorted to threats, warning of legal action against American gun makers if Washington proceeds with labeling Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations. It's a desperate countermeasure from a government watching its authority erode from both sides, challenged by cartels within and by American military power from without. What happens when that first missile strikes Mexican soil? When an American Reaper drone fires a Hellfire missile at a cartel compound? The moment American missiles hit targets in Mexico, we enter uncharted territory. It would be the first direct American military strike on Mexican soil, but this time, the firepower available is exponentially more devastating, and the potential for escalation infinitely greater. Would cartels retreat under the technological superiority of American forces, or would they unleash their networks already embedded in American cities?
Well, the cartels have been involved in the deaths of far more Americans than all terrorist organizations combined here within the United States, right? We know hundreds of thousands of deaths based on fentanyl trafficking into the country.
What began as surveillance flights could quickly evolve into targeted killings, and from there into full-scale military operations. Each step increases the risk of a conflict that neither country can fully control. History offers a sobering lesson here. Every time authorities have thought they delivered a decisive blow against the cartels, the criminal underworld has adapted, evolved, and often emerged stronger.
Like, I tend to rage on this topic because a lot of people that don't know what's going on think that we're just going to go in and just bang hammers and then the cartel will disappear. But having done this job for 20 plus years, I know that's not the case at all. It's never that easy. If it was, then we wouldn't be in this place to begin with.
When the DEA dismantled the Guadalajara cartel in the late 1980s, they didn't end drug trafficking. They shattered it into multiple organizations, including the Sinaloa cartel, the Juarez cartel, and the Tijuana cartel, that would go on to write some of the bloodiest chapters in Mexico's history. The same happened when Los Zetas broke away from the Gulf cartel. They introduced military tactics and unprecedented brutality, normalizing mass beheadings and public displays of mutilated bodies. Violence wasn't just a tool, it became their brand. Even the capture of major figures like El Chapo and El Mayo didn't weaken the Sinaloa cartel as hoped. It triggered violent power struggles between rival factions, resulting in thousands of additional deaths. The Sinaloa War is ravishing Mexico as we speak. It's not just that cutting off the head of the snake doesn't kill it. It's that each time we do so, the snake grows multiple new heads, each more venomous than before. Now, with Musk and Trump threatening to unleash America's most advanced military technology against them, the cartels face an existential threat unlike any they've encountered before. Their response will likely be proportionate and devastating. For the people caught in the middle, ordinary Mexican citizens and border communities in the United States, the future looks increasingly grim. They stand to bear the greatest costs of a conflict that neither government seems fully prepared to control. As spy planes continue to circle and drones gather intelligence, the countdown to the first strike has begun. When it comes, there will be no going back, only forward into uncharted and dangerous territory where the rules of engagement are still being written, and the ultimate price will be paid not by presidents or billionaires or cartel kingpins, but by the innocent people whose lives are about to be caught in the crossfire of a war that's been decades in the making. Musk tweets, Trump signs orders, cartel leaders prepare, but who bleeds when the drones come? Not billionaires or presidents, just villagers caught between monsters. Will drone strikes finally break the cartels, or will they bring unprecedented violence to American streets instead? Drop your opinion below. This conversation can't wait. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications for our next video. The truth needs witnesses.